we're going to be going over what I think is the coolest way to play the pentatonic scale. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So you'll see that actually we're going to be going through this document that you're going to see on the right, and it's called the Pentatonic Primer. Now, if you want this document, check the comments down below, and you will be able to get your own copy of it. So most of you probably know actually this first page of the document. This is a 3-page document. And let's actually go up here to the first page. So this is basically what you find anywhere, your basic positions of the pentatonic scale. So in this case, we're checking out the A minor pentatonic scale. So that's the first position, second position, third position. I'm not going to go over that all right now because I'm assuming that you already kind of know this. Again, this is something you can find anywhere. So we're going to take a look at the next 2 pages of this document. So here in the second page, this is a really, really important part that I really emphasize with a lot of people, no matter what it is that you're trying to learn on the guitar, whether it's arpeggios or anything like that, a scale, the major scale, the pentatonic scale, is you gotta learn how to play it on one string at a time. So the only way that you can really learn how to play anything on one string at a time is, well, you actually have to know the actual notes that are in the thing that you're trying to learn. So in this case, the A minor pentatonic scale has 5 notes in it. It has the notes A, C, D, E, and G, okay? And then also that's the same thing again as the C major pentatonic. So if you just take that scale and you start from C, that actually gives you the C major pentatonic scale. So let's just go over a couple of these really quick. Not going to go over all of them because actually I want to get into the meat and potatoes, which is the 3rd page, which I accidentally had up there in the beginning. So again, this single string stuff is really cool because it lets us play in a very different way from what most people are used to, which is being stuck sort of in the box, right? So instead, let's check out actually the 5th string. So we have the 5th string, we have the open A, then we have C on the 3rd fret, D on the 5th fret, E on the 7th fret, G on the 10th fret, and then A again all the way in the 12th fret. So this lets you kind of get this. This different vibe going when you learn on one string at a time. Actually, if you check out a lot of like kind of Indian music, they do this same type of thing where on the sitar, actually, they play the pentatonic scale, and in the sitar, it's a really, really big thing to just go up and down one string at a time. So you can get a lot different sounds by checking out the pentatonic scale on one string at a time. And also, last thing is that it's going to help you connect each of those position patterns, okay? So let's get into my favorite part of this, which is going to be this 3rd page here, 3rd and final page. So on this page, these first 3 examples on the top, so these 3 right here, these are going to be slightly different than the last 2. So I'll explain now. So this first pattern here in the top is called exact repeating pattern 1. So why is it called exact repeating pattern? It kind of looks like a big long pattern that we have to learn. But actually, if we observe here on the 6th and 5th strings, there's actually like a little mini pattern here. So let's take a look at that. So on the 6th string, you got A on the 5th fret, then you got C on the 8th fret, and then again on the 5th fret, but of the 5th string, you have D, and then you have E on the 7th fret, and then you have G on the 10th fret. So this little pattern right here, you just have to remember this. Again, I'll play one more time. That's actually an entire pentatonic scale right there, by the way. It's 5 notes, right? There's 5 notes in the pentatonic scale, and there's 5 notes right there. So if you notice now, look at this. Starting from the 7th fret of the 4th string, we get the exact same shape verbatim. You get A, then you go up 3 frets to C, then we go over a string to the 3rd string now, and then you have D and E, and then G is 3 frets above E. So you can play the exact literal same pattern 3 different times actually, and turn it into one gigantic pattern. So there's the pattern on the 4th and 3rd strings, and then finally you do it again here starting from the 10th fret of the 2nd string. Now, this is why I think that this is the coolest way to play the pentatonic scale, because now we're blending basically seamlessly the first 2 approaches that we just talked about. So the position patterns, the 5 different position patterns of the pentatonic scale, which again, you all probably know, and then the single string patterns where it's just all the way only going this way left and right on the fretboard. Now we get this kind of diagonal overall shape. So just by remembering one simple pattern, and actually it's even simpler because again, you don't need to remember this whole gigantic pattern. This gigantic pattern is just made up of one little teensy weensy pattern that's only over 2 strings. You just repeat it 3 times. But now all of a sudden, this pattern's going to take us all the way from the 5th fret of the 6th string all the way to the 15th fret of the 1st string. So if I play the whole thing together, it sounds like this. So we went all the way from here to here. To me, that's super insane. And the added benefit of this is that you can play an idea and then repeat that exact same idea up an octave. Kind of like this. Like if I want to play, let's say, D, E, and then C, A, da, 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 da. You can do the same thing up an octave. And that always sounds like super pro when you can take your idea and then just move it up and down an octave. That's something actually that piano players do very, very easily. It's not quite as easy on the guitar, but as you can see with this approach, it is pretty easy to do. So let's take a look at the next 2 exact repeating patterns, because these are also really cool. So if we start from instead of the A note on the 5th fret of the 6th string, we can start it from the G note. And this is actually an easy, like a little bit of an easier pattern to play, actually. You just have to remember that the root of your pentatonic scale is actually going to be the 2nd note, right? It's the root of your pentatonic scale is still that A, or if you're thinking of it in major, it's going to be the C. So look at this. We have G on the 3rd fret, A on the 5th fret, then C on the 3rd fret, G on the 5th fret, and E on the 7th fret. So it's literally like a box that has one extra note. It's literally like a little tiny square. And then we repeat that exact same pattern up an octave. And then one more time. So that's the super duper cool thing, again, is that now we're going all the way from the 3rd fret of the 6th string to the 12th fret of the 1st string. Literally in just one pattern. Also, the thing that I really love about this is it kind of lends itself to sliding when you're playing. And again, that sliding approach, it always sounds just a little more pro than when you're just stuck in you're picking every note or hammering on and pulling off every note. Adding in those slides is something that you basically never get when you're playing in those positions like that. So let's take a look at the last exact repeating pattern. This one's actually almost like exactly the same as the second one in terms of the shape. So if we start now from the C, which is, again, that's the relative major. So again, like now we're kind of thinking C major pentatonic in a way because we're starting from C. So we start from C on the 8th fret of the 6th string, then we D on the 10th fret, and then E on the 12th fret. So those 3 notes on that 6th string, and then we get G and A. So that's the pattern that we're going to repeat 3 times. Okay, so again, this one goes what? From the 8th fret all the way up to the 17th fret. So whenever you play these things, like if you just get, if nothing else, guys, you just get these 3 patterns, that's automatically gonna make you look and sound way more pro. Like when you see someone playing with these patterns, there you see their hand moving around the guitar neck instead of just being stuck in there. So, you know, before we move on, let's just see what it sounds like if we play this over a backing track. There's that thing repeating the idea up or down an octave. So there you have it. It's such a cool approach to the pentatonic scale. Again, the sliding, and then of course, if you don't play all the notes in the pattern, you skip over some of them. Like sometimes I just played that C and the G. Wrong note there. Right? Just that alone, you could actually get these 2 cool shapes, like this C and the G right there, and then also this D and the A. So all I'm doing is just playing them in a different order. So of course, it's up to your creativity to be able to see all the different possibilities that you can get out of this, and that's the really cool part about practicing it. Okay, so let's start wrapping up this video by taking a look at the next 2 patterns, the last 2 patterns. So now the names of these patterns are a little bit different. So this first one is called 3 note per string pattern 1, and then we got 3 note per string pattern 2. And it's exactly what it sounds like. So if you notice, actually, the exact repeating patterns, they had 1 string in the little mini patterns that we talked about. One of those strings would have 3 notes on it, and then the other one would have 2 notes. But now, what happens if we decide, hey, let's lay out the pentatonic scale, but we have to have 3 notes on every string? This is super duper cool, and just a little warning though, it is pretty advanced, so you better have practiced all of those single string pentatonic scales really, really well before you try this, because yeah, let's just say you're not going to be able to just remember the shape, okay? The shape actually just basically different on every string. So again, that's why I left this for last, because you need to be careful before you jump into this, or else you're just going to get overwhelmed and confused. So if we look at this 3 note per string pattern number 1, again, it's just exactly what it sounds like. So remember, we have A, C, D, E, and G in this scale. Okay, so we're going to see what happens. We're going to start it from G. Now, there's actually more of these patterns, both the exact repeating ones and the 3-note per string ones that are on here, but I don't want to overwhelm you with too much stuff. The 3-note per string patterns, if you start them from some different notes, you'll just kind of run out of space, because as you can see, these freaking patterns are gigantic. Look at this. This first one goes from the 3rd fret of the 6th string all the way up to the 20th fret of the 1st string, okay? So if you start this, like let's say from A, you're gonna run out of space on the 1st string. You're not gonna be able to put 3 notes per string on that last string. And same thing if you start even higher up on the 6th string. So you can't start super high in the 6th string and still be able to lay 3 notes per string on every single one. So again, this is something you gotta mess with a little bit. But let's try playing through this. So we had G, A, and then C, and then we have D, E, and G, and then we have A, C, and D, E, G, A, C, D, E, and then G, A, C. Again, these are the kinds of things that are really, really, really cool, because we can just think sort of in one pattern that's going to automatically take us all the way across the whole entire guitar neck, okay? So just for practicing purposes, couple things I want you to pay attention to. There's 2 different ways to sort of finger each of these strings. So first of all, you can decide to have a slide on each string, because as you can see, each string stretches quite a bit. So if you have really big hands, you can try to stretch. Sometimes I do that, because I'm like 6'4", and my hands aren't gigantic, but you know, they're not small either. Or sometimes I like to do this just because it sounds cool. What I'll do is I'll play my first finger in the first note, so let's say that G note right there, and then I'll slide it up to the A, and then play the C with my pinky. And then if it doesn't make sense to slide the first finger, then I'll slide my pinky instead. So here it makes more sense on the 4th string to play A and then C with my pinky, and then slide up to D. So again, there's not sort of like an exact science to this. You gotta mess around with different ways. And I think that that's a huge part of getting better at improv too, is this willingness to be able to sit there and mess around with, hey, what if I do this finger, and what if I do this finger, and what if I slide with this finger? What if I do any number of things? You got to think kind of like a guitar experimenter when you're doing this, okay? So let's hear what it sounds like using some of these 3-note per string scale patterns over the backing track. Also, if you can get that jump and skip the middle note, oh, that's super cool. Hit a couple wrong notes there, I'm stretching. All right, so as you can see, those are really, really cool. And even me, I'm still not 100% comfortable with it sometimes. Sometimes it's just like, man, there's so many different possibilities going on here that when I'm practicing these things and trying to show them to you, I'm really, really trying to think and stretch my mind and play stuff that I'm not used to when I'm doing this, okay? So let's check out the last pattern really quick, just for the sake of completeness. So you got 3 note per string pattern number 2. So this one actually starts with our open E string. Again, we can take advantage of that. So we got open E, then G, and then A, and then C, D, E on the 5th string, and then G, A, C on the 4th, and then D, E, and G on the 3rd, and then A, C, and then D on the 2nd, and then E, G, and A on the 1st string. By the way, if you notice, whenever you do these patterns, it just so happens that you end up with the exact same notes on the 6th string and on the 1st string, but actually 3 octaves higher the same notes. So we started with E, G, and A, and then we ended with E, G, and A. So again, there's more possible ways to do this. So the idea behind this whole video was just to show you the concepts behind it. The idea here is just to make sure that you have the concept down so that you can go ahead and experiment with this yourself and start incorporating it into your playing. So everybody, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Again, check the comments so that you can get your own copy of this Pentatonic primer document, and I will see you in the next video. Until next time, listen, learn, and jam.